Hello and welcome to Real Menopause Talk. My guest today is Nicci Harvey. Nicci's story is essential listening for anyone who is about to have a hysterectomy or if you know someone who is. Her advice and list of pre-surgery questions are indispensable, and I don't say that lightly. She's wonderful to listen to despite telling of real difficulty, so grab a cup of tea, settle down and listen in. Nicci, lovely to meet you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
You see, I've gone all formal already.
Do you know what? I do that as well, though. No matter how many times I do this, I get a bit hot and flustered too. So we can all be hot and flustered together. Would you like to start by telling me a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're doing?
So, where to start? I'm married with a daughter, born here, and my parents immigrated to South Africa when I was really teeny, so I didn't really have any memory of the UK at all. And I have two sisters, but my whole family decided to move back. And, as I said, so there was a bit of a tricky divorce. So I decided that I didn't really want to be on my own in South Africa. Things were getting a bit uncomfortable over there, a bit scary. So I decided to come back. So it was, me, my little 2-year-old, and a suitcase, which was quite scary. But I work in tech, so I didn't find it too difficult to, get going again and find my feet, which was great. And I had my parents were just really supportive. So, they were great at childcare and stuff like that while I did get back on my feet in another country, which was completely alien. I remember flying into the UK after, living in South Africa all my life, which was really beautiful and warm and dry, and flying into the UK in February with a screaming 2-year-old after an 11-hour flight and coming in over London, and it was raining and there were just all these chimney pots really close together, and looking at that and thinking, what have I done? What have I done? But actually, I'm really happy here. It's fab. I love it.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
Yeah, I'm extremely happy. And I live in the country in South Wales. So it's in Monmouthshire. So it's an extremely beautiful part of the country. It's gorgeous. And yes, it is constantly raining at the moment. But I also know that when the sun shines, it's just glorious. You wouldn't want to be anywhere else, really.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you in terms of menopause?
So I'm in a really tricky place, and it's one that I am under a menopause clinic, which is wonderful, and they're really supportive. But it's a really tricky place, and I think quite a few women who've had total abdominal hysterectomies like me will actually agree. I had a total abdominal hysterectomy because I had really, really large and very many fibroids, and they were pressing on my bladder. One wanted to come out. It was just really awful. They were really bad. But I was left with my ovaries, and they started to fail pretty quickly. But it wasn't, recognized by the doctors because I was young. I was very young. I was just in my 40s after my surgery. So it's very difficult to diagnose whether you are postmenopausal or that you're in menopause because of the hysterectomy, or if you're perimenopausal because you don't have a period because you've had this surgery. Mm-hmm. So you're in this sort of no man's land because you have ovaries. And the blood tests are very difficult they can't really determine, because sometimes your ovary might fire and sometimes it's not firing at all. So it's been really, really difficult. And as a result, in terms of trying to sort of deal with it with HRT, that's been really hard as well. So it's been quite a long and difficult journey.
The trouble with HRT is getting the dosage right. And if you're not sure exactly where you're at, and not only the dosage, but the form of each of the hormones, if you don't know where you're at and the doctors don't, then that's going to be even harder. And blood tests give us a snapshot of what's going on at that precise
That
moment
point
in
in time. Yes.
Exactly. So very difficult indeed.
Yes.
What have been your symptoms?
So almost immediately after my surgery, I would say within, because straight after surgery, your hormones just go bonkers anyway, even if you've been left with your ovaries. I felt really, really awful. But I would say once that immediate period was over, within the first year of that surgery, I started to experience night sweats. They were really severe. And then it was anxiety, insomnia, and I'm not sure which came first because I'm going back quite a few years now, but I suspect that the insomnia really caused the anxiety to become worse. Mm-hmm. But I would wake up in the night with palpitations and all sorts of things, which I recognize now is that immediate drop in the estrogen. But yes, I would say anxiety and insomnia were really, really awful. And I also started to have cognitive issues. And I had a really, really senior role at that time. I was at chief technology level for an international finance organization. I was traveling all over the world. I was running strategy sessions at board level. So I pretty much struggled to function. It was horrendous. Thinking back, it's quite hard to even think about that period of my life because I was, operating on a few hours sleep a night, and then, throwing in jet lag and travel with that just really exacerbated it. And I became quite paranoid because I started to think that people could see that I wasn't functioning and that I started to make up scenarios in my head about, that they thought I wasn't very good at my job, and that they might be talking about me, and all that kind of stuff. And it just, it snowballs, doesn't it?
It does, particularly with lack of sleep. And then if you've got your symptoms on top of that, it does, like you say, it does snowball. I'm really sorry you've experienced all of that. That must have been so
terrible.
hard.
It was awful.
How did you get to the point where you are with a menopause clinic?
Well, it took a really long time. At that time, I did actually approach my GP and asked if it was possible that I was experiencing menopausal symptoms. Sadly, I was only still in my early 40s. And despite the fact that I'd had a hysterectomy, my GP sent me away and said, "You're too young to be menopausal. It's most definitely just a symptom of, you're just anxious. It's probably the stress of your job. Go away." So that led to me leaving my job and pretty much having a complete and utter breakdown, because it got to the point where I stopped sleeping pretty much altogether, and then as a result wasn't able to function at all. So I forgot how to shower. I forgot how to, do very, very small tasks. Now, at the time, we were fortunate in that my in-laws they travel quite a lot, and they've got a lovely house up in Snowdonia at the beach. And my husband is able to work from home, and he has a very understanding organization. So he spoke to them and asked them if he could work anywhere, and they supported him for a period of a couple of months. My in-laws were in France, so he took me up there because we just weren't having any support from the GPs. So he took me up there because I'd stopped working, and he, just to recover, really. And I didn't do anything. So him sort of doing that gave me my body time to rest, I guess. And I slowly recovered a little bit, enough to start to do things like yoga and gentle exercise, walking on the beach, that sort of thing, and not have the worries and the pressures of work on top of everything that was going on. Obviously, I was still experiencing menopausal symptoms, but I just didn't have that added pressure. We were up there for, a couple of months, and then we came home, and I just carried on with the exercise and stuff like that. I resolved with myself that I was never going to have a career again in, at that level or do anything like that. And after about 18 months, I got myself a job in retail. It was with Holland and Barrett. So it was with a, health store, and they give you training in all that sort of, the vitamins and minerals and herbal supplements and things. And I met a customer in there who I've become a really close friend with. And we were just chatting, and she mentioned that she was with a menopause clinic. And I didn't even know that that was a thing. And she said, just get hold of your GP and say, this is what I want. I want a referral to the menopause clinic. And at that time, they weren't, so well known. We hadn't had the Davina moment. So I did it. I called, and I had an appointment within, I think, maybe a month to 6 weeks. And I've been with them since. So for the last, just coming up for 2 years. And they've been working with me to try and sort of get that dosage right. But I'm on a really high, for me, I would consider quite a high dosage of estrogen. Not progesterone, because I've had the hysterectomy, but I am taking testosterone. They stopped the testosterone recently for a little while, but I'm back on it. And that was because for a while, we've been doing blood tests on and off, and my estrogen was remaining really low. So they were concerned that I would be converting the testosterone to estrogen. And so it would be a waste until, we got my estrogen levels a bit better. Now that my estrogen levels are starting to pick up a bit, they've put me back on the testosterone.
And how are you feeling now?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm working in tech again. After 3 years of not working, I had the courage to throw myself back in and went for an interview last year and got the job, which is, it was a really big deal because you lose a lot of self-confidence as well, I think, when you go through experiences like this. So it felt really amazing to, it was really scary, but at the same time, it was a huge affirmation, I think, to have an organization come back to you and say, actually, we think you're just what we want. It's a really good feeling. And yes, I've been with them since May. And what's amazing is that when I did go through the process, I didn't do it lightly. I sat down with them and I spoke to them about how important my well-being is to me. And I also spoke to them about how important menopause care is to me. Because, in the meantime, I'd started my Instagram feed and I wanted to help other women and I wanted to raise awareness. So they have a really keen interest in women and menopause. They have a fantastic policy in place. They've got a Yammer site. They have coffee mornings. They're just, they're wonderful. And I take part in that and participate often. So, they're a great organization to work with. Really great.
That sounds just wonderful and exactly how it should be in the workplace. So good for you for putting all of that in place. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I haven't even put that in place. They already had it in place, which I think is just remarkable, really, that, I joined an organization that already cared and already, had it up and running, which was just, blew me away.
Me too. And I hope it doesn't in the future. I hope that is standard practice. But
yes.
Still, the fact that you advocated for yourself as you went in.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I had a question now that's dropped out of my head. See, this happens again as well.
At least we can laugh about it, isn't it, Hattie?
Yes. What started your Instagram page?
I'd been looking around on Facebook, I think, and I'd found Diane Danzebrink's group. And I think she was looking for women for a newspaper article to contribute regarding leaving their jobs. And I'd contributed to that. And I realized that actually, when you share something, lots of women come forward and they share. So it sort of led me to think that perhaps there might be something in that, and I'm not after followers. I'm not after sort of growing a massive something. I just thought that if I put something out there and I talk about what happened to me, but subsequently what I found helped, it might mean that a woman or the daughter of a woman or the husband of a woman or etc., might see it and prevent what happened to me happening to them. And so that's what I did. And that's what I do.
And I love your page. It's very entertaining as well as being informative. And the fact that we're able to meet through Instagram, and you never know, one day in real life through whatever circumstances I just love all of that.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Wouldn't it just? You see all these little networky connections of menopause world. they bring people together. It's very
They
exciting.
really do. They really do. And I've been really lucky to meet Diane. I went to London when the bill was, when we were looking for the bill to be passed. I went to London and I met a number of women there in Parliament Square that day. And it was such a special moment. I was fangirling when I saw Diane and, but it was great to sort of actually meet people in 3D, as we sort of put it on the day, because, we're all just women and we all just want something better for other women. We just want better treatment, fair treatment. That's all we're after, isn't it, really? It's not a lot when you put it down.
How would you like the perception of menopause to change in the outside world?
I certainly don't want it shamed. I don't want it brushed under the carpet. I want it to be seen or recognized as a part of a woman's life that she experiences and that should be treated as important. It should be as important as pregnancy. It should be as important as every other medical condition that any person experiences. It should be treated. Oh gosh. I just get so angry about it. I just don't think that it should be. I just don't understand why it just gets sort of pushed aside. I just don't understand why it is. I just want it to be recognized as a really important part of a woman's life cycle. That's what I want.
You're not the first person I've spoken to post-hysterectomy who wasn't warned about it or supported post-surgery. And I still find that really shocking because it feels like an obvious conversation to have with somebody who is going to have an organ removed. This is what could happen. It might not for some people, but it might do. So to be left in the dark just astonishes me. And then you've had to go through and experience everything that you have. What advice would you give to somebody else who is about to undergo what you have so far?
I would say do your research before you have your surgery, because unfortunately, as things stand today, you're not going to be offered all the answers. So you need to make sure that you have your questions prepared before you head in. Make sure that you're very clear on what you're going to be offered post-surgery as well. Something I've never understood as well is that the surgeon or the consultant will come and see you straight after your operation to let you know how things have gone. This doesn't necessarily always just happen with a hysterectomy. It often happens with whatever surgery you've had. But chances are you're coming round from a hefty dose of general anaesthetic. You are not going to remember what the surgeon has said to you. So you need to know before you go in for your surgery what appointments you're going to have with that surgeon after the surgery. If you're going to have a follow-up, we need to be asking questions like, what type of hysterectomy am I having? What does that mean to my body after my surgery? If I'm keeping my ovaries, how do I know that they have failed or if they're carrying on working? What signs do I need to look out for? What post-operative care do I need? Who can I speak to if I'm feeling different, what advice should I be seeking from my GP? How soon can I make an appointment with a menopause specialist? Would I be fast-tracked with a menopause clinic if I've had a hysterectomy? Or can I be fast-tracked with a menopause clinic if I've had a hysterectomy? Another thing that I think is really important for women post-hysterectomy is talking therapy. I think it's really, really important. Women don't always think that there is a mental impact, shall we say, to this type of surgery. But so many chemical changes take place in the brain as a result of that sudden estrogen and progesterone and testosterone change. It's really, really vital that talking therapy is offered as well, or is asked for. And I would suggest that that is requested as well.
That sounds like invaluable advice. And I would have thought there would be an emotional, psychological impact. It's a big deal. You've just had part
It's a
of you
huge deal.
removed. Yeah. And part that for many women has an emotional connection.
Yes, absolutely. And, there are so many different reasons for hysterectomy, too many to mention in this chat. And because of that, those emotional and psychological impacts are very different for each woman. And it's absolutely vital that they are addressed and that talking therapy is offered. You have to giggle with menopause as well. We've all done many very silly things, like putting the fabric conditioner in the fridge next to the milk, trying to open my front door with my car remote.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we do, right? And certainly starting my new job last year was fraught with making the most ridiculous mistakes or losing words, and meeting my colleagues on Teams and, mixing up their names and forgetting that, the internet is called the internet, and trying to point somebody in that direction, calling it, the webby thing. And it's just living with it, isn't it? And trying to make the best of it, and then telling everybody about it.
Exactly. Spreading the word is what is going to make the changes and bring it all into a much more positive light, I hope.
Normalize it. Let's just normalize it, but actually recognize it as a medical condition, because that is what it is. That's what we go through, and get fair treatment for women.
Thanks ever so much, Nicci. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. You can find Nicci on Instagram at the M Word and Me. Follow us on the podcast apps, leave a review, and spread the word. Tell all your friends, because sharing stories and sharing the information is exactly what will make the changes. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.